My name is Amarjit Kumar. I am having 7+ years of experience. Currently, I am doing Java development. So the technology which I use, Java with a Spring Boot microservices, a Spring Cloud component as a backend. Some of the exposures is a front end as a Angular 9. Also, I have a good experience in our AWS cloud services. So most of the cloud services I use for the development of microservices application. And then coming for this database, I have also good experience in Oracle and Mongo as a NoSQL. Coming for this DevOps, some of the DevOps tools I use for the development and monitoring the applications like Apache, Maven, Jenkins, Jira, GitHub, ELKS, Splunk and all. So these all are the DevOps tools which I work. So these all are the technology stack which I have experience in my bucket. Coming for the development of domain, I have good experience in banking, telecom, e-commerce, and health insurance projects. So currently I'm working with the health insurance project. So health insurance project is a portal where we need to manage multiple third-party health insurance, so that if any customers will come in this portal, they can take any type of insurance. Once you will take the insurance, then we need to manage internally. So we'll have a order, so that orders will be created. After that, we have a process the order through the stores, so particular which area and what type of stores has been defined for the particular order, and then payment has been calculated. So how much price will be the particular insurance? If any price has been calculated, then is there any promo operations is there? So for that we have a multiple services. Once promo code will be defined, then users can get some discounts and all. After that, once payment will happen, then we have a notification services, so that email and email alert or SMS notifications will come in these pictures. So we have a multiple microservices which need to be processed internally. So how we are doing, like my role and responsibility in this project, like we are following agile. So based on the agile, whatever the sprint task will be defined, we need to work. So that based on some Jira task will be defined, we need to work. So my role and responsibility here, like developing a microservices based applications on daily basis. Some of the cases we have a third party communications, so that multiple API which need to be communicate from other services or other third party vendors, so that we can get some informations or request as per the response as per the request, like that. So that type of communications will happen through the REST template or maybe Kafka we can use. Apart from this, whatever we are developing, so that development will happen in this different environments. So once it will go for the production environment, after the testings and all, then we need to stay on the call and check all the things, like deployment is going on the productions. Before that, we need to check multiple things, like what are the configurations changes, and what are the request logs, security validations is proper or not. Once that will be deployed, then we need to check after deployments also there is some validations and all, and if anything will be there, then we have to do some hotfix deployments and all. So that type of work we are doing, like I'm doing on daily basis. Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, that's great. Great. So can you talk about your current project and the architecture of the project?
Yeah, so current project which I already told, like I'm working for the health insurance project. So there will have a multiple third party calls will be there, or if users can come, so then they can take any type of insurance, either health, term and other life and all. So once you will take, then internally we have a multiple processing, like we need to check the orders. So we'll have a order microservice will come in these pictures. Once order will be there, like what type of order, either creation, deletion, updation, modifications, multiple orders will be there. If users can modify this premium, if users can change this plan of that, so like that. So that orders will be generated. According to that, we need to first what type of area location is there, what is the stores, is particular store, which type of pin code is there. Through that we can define, like is this customer is based on this type of state or this type of areas, particular areas. After that, we'll check according to that area, we need to calculate the price, so that calculations and all will happen. Some of the cases have a fare that will be depends on this metropolitan areas and non-metropolitan areas and all. According to that, we will define, and after that, users can how many insurance he has taken, or maybe the users is like frequently they are taking or some of the insurance and all, so that they have some promo code and all. So we need to fetch the details from the particular user's account, is that customer has applicable for particular any redemptions amount or some of the promo code which has been applied for this customer. After that, once users will payment, then payment will happen. After that we'll have some notifications so that users can get the confirmations. Also we'll have a email alert or maybe notification for the future payment. So that type of things will be there. So these all are the
Mm-hmm.
microservices which need to be communicated each other and process the data. If you go for the architectures of, we have a high level, low level design will be there. So low level we can say suppose I told like order services. So how internally order services will work. For that internally we have a multiple operations which need to be followed in order services and all. So that we can create in the low level, and high level we
Mm-hmm.
can define all the microservices interacting each others. What are the things are there, what need to be how we are deploying, which type of component we used. So these things we can mention through this.
Okay, great. Can you tell me what design patterns are being used specifically for microservices?
Yeah, specifically for microservices, mostly I used transaction handling or transaction management. For the Saga patterns I used
Mm-hmm.
in that cases.
Mm-hmm.
For this, once the users request will come from the third party API or maybe others customer request. So for that we have a API handler. So that API gateway whichever
Mm-hmm.
that is also we used a Spring Cloud component. Mostly I used like Eureka Service Registry and circuit breaker
Mm-hmm.
and ribbon which will be handle the load balances and all, and API gateway. So these all are the
Mm-hmm.
types I used.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from this, also
Okay.
we have of other patterns also we have like CQRS and all.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me, describe the saga pattern?
Yeah, Saga pattern is a design pattern of the microservices, one of the most famous design patterns in that. So while if you want to go for the database communications, which need to be interact the database and update the modifications or deletions or anything,
Mm-hmm.
so that transactions will come in this picture. So that before that Saga patterns, we have suppose if you have a one microservices, you want to do some deep database operations or business logic need to be performed through the database. So we have a transactional at the rate transactional annotations which will follow acid property. So acid property will have a acid
Mm-hmm.
acid atomicity, consistency, durability, and isobability. So that will define your transactions will be like a commit or rollback or partial commits. These things will be there through the at the rate transactional annotation. But once you will come in this saga will have a multiple microservices which need to be independent each other. So we'll have a partial commit. So suppose if users has done that order, so that order has been initiated, the order database will be have a same or maybe different. So that T1 transaction has been created, that is a partial commit. And once that transactions will go for the payment, so
Mm-hmm.
that payment microservice also will have some other information. So they need to check this orders. Based on that they have to calculate the price and then they will do the some transactions. Suppose in that cases also between before that they need to call some promo operation, that is a promo code operations. Suppose in that cases they, if say if any microservices has down or something happen in that, so how these transactions will be rolled back. So multiple microservices which
Mm-hmm.
communicated, and once the final database communications which will be modified the transactions, then saga will come in this pattern, and we have a, if anything will be fail in between, then they will roll back of all the respective microservices transactions, that is called some transactions and all.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. Can you tell me what is circuit breaker design pattern?
Yeah, circuit breaker is part of we have a multiple microservices, and one microservices is independent with other microservices. So other microservices is down or maybe something happen in this particular microservice. So how a microservice will know like B microservice is down. So that's why we are not getting a response and all. So if you are creating any microservices, in that will have a business logic that is called service.implementation class.
Mm-hmm.
In that service.implementation class, you have a multiple methods are there. So in while we are creating any method regarding this business logic, there we can create a heuristic. So that heuristic circuit breaker will define like if this microservices method particular implementation method will not work, then what type of predefined message you have to show to the a microservices, so that a
Mm-hmm.
microservice will know like this service is down due to some reason, So we can define through the hysterics. So at the rate hysterics circuit breakers enable, then that patterns will follow.
That's great. Can you talk about some of disadvantages of microservices?
Yeah, microservices have multiple advantage and disadvantage are there. So before this microservices, we have a monolithic and SOA based application was there. Monolithic is a single applications where we can have a multiple module and we can deploy it in a single time. Suppose if multiple
Mm-hmm.
users are developing anything, then they will do only one time of deployment. So all the applications will be stopped and you can do the deployment. But microservices will have a independent development, independent deployments and all. So that is the features of microservices. Like parallelly we can start multiple
Mm-hmm.
features modifications in particular applications or web applications and all. But we have some disadvantage also. While we can say like multiple deployment and development, in that cases you need to like in monolithic only one platform is there where we can track our application is up or down. But in microservices, as we told,
Mm-hmm.
like we have to create multiple micro module. So that micro module you need to track.
Mm-hmm.
So how you will track for all the repetition of work you need to configure. Like suppose if you have
Oh.
monitoring any application in monolithic, so only one time you need to configure. But if you are doing for the microservices, then suppose you have 10 microservices, so 10 type of repetitions of
Mm-hmm.
like Eureka service registry or maybe some hysterics configurations or maybe some any other tools. If you want to track your application is either up, down or something is there, or if any deployment is there, after
Mm-hmm.
that you want to track the logs and all. So every time repetition of task you need to do. This is the first thing. And second thing is like while we have any issues, then while identifying in this, instead of monolithic directly we can go for the particular server where logs is configured. But here we have a multiple logs will be there. So that you multiple
Mm-hmm.
users or maybe multiple clients will not don't know like where we need to search, what will be the main of gateway where we have to find it the particular root cause of this microservices,
Mm-hmm.
where exactly. So that type of things while is also problems.
Got it. Got it. So let us say that you have one monolithic application and you have to modernize it and make it into microservices. So how will you decide like what all microservices to create?
Yeah, monolithic. Yeah, we can like refactor the application based on the requirement of client. So and based on the applications, first we have to analyze. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry for that. So first we have to analyze this applications, like what type of application, either is a like big applications or maybe like compatible applications and all.
Mm-hmm.
How many microservices, how many module we need to divide. Suppose we have a e-commerce
Mm-hmm.
based application. So in that e-commerce we'll have a multiple
Mm-hmm.
divided, like stores will be there, orders will be there, slot will be there, payment will be there, promo will be there, like notifications will be there. Like depends on the requirement, we need to first of all we need to analyze the applications of monolithic, like what are the modules we
Mm-hmm.
need to like deprecated or maybe divided in the services. And also we have to like check the client requirement. So what are the things he want to modify or maybe he need to add or update. Based on that we need to divide it in the different part.
Got it. Got it. So basically, you're saying based on the domains.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Uh, you have also experience in the deployment uh, part.
Yeah, so deployments also I have a experience. Mostly I use the CI/CD pipeline, so that Jenkins and cloud services I'm
Mm-hmm.
using. So while we are creating any
Mm-hmm.
applications, then we will be integrated with the Git and Jenkins. So that latest branch of master will take it in this Jenkins, and Jenkins pipeline we need to create. So in that pipeline we'll take the latest code from this, create a class file, build this application, then create a class file, and then there were multiple validations will happen, test the test cases and all, and then the life cycle will be completed. Then that will be go for the deployment. So this type of things we are doing in this different environment have configured.
Got it. So you mentioned like Kafka. What is the use of Kafka and what is the most why Kafka is being used?
Yeah, Kafka mostly used for like we have a third party calls. Okay, so that are third party calls or
Mm-hmm.
maybe some internal microservices call. So while we need a asynchronous communication, multiple request is coming and multiple
Mm-hmm.
response we are processing simultaneously. For that cases, we can go for any messaging queue, either Kafka, RabbitMQ and all. How and where, which
Mm-hmm.
microservice? Not in all microservice. So particular microservice which will be head of microservice, like we can say order. So multiple user, like more than 1,000 user in particular second, they are generating some order, and based on that order we
Mm-hmm.
need to create a slot, we need to calculate the payment, we need to check the promo, and then we need to send the notification. So how this will happen, all the
Mm-hmm.
respective microservice will need to be called through the order microservice. So suppose if all microservice will call
Mm-hmm.
suddenly, then my order microservice will hang up, like that will not respond properly and all. So how we can come in these pictures to resolve these issues, like create a Kafka cluster. That Kafka clusters will have based on the topic, we have to send the order.
Mm-hmm.
So in order microservice we'll have a producer class which will be produce the data to the Kafka cluster, whatever the order is generating in
Mm-hmm.
frequently basis. So that record will be produced to the Kafka producers from order microservice to Kafka cluster, and then other respective microservice which need to be
Mm-hmm.
take the data simultaneously from the order, instead of directly communicating to the order, they can go for the Kafka cluster. So how they will do, all respective microservice need to have a consumer class, so that consumer class will consume the data through the Kafka cluster and they can process.
Mm-hmm.
So as a asynchronous communications call, which will have bulk data to process simultaneously, in that cases we can go for Kafka. Apart from this, we have multiple features in the Kafka, not in this messaging and all. So that type of things I work.
Got it. Got it. You mentioned like you have experience in MongoDB as well.
Yeah, Mongo NoSQLs I use some of the microservices. Some cases of microservices I use
Mm-hmm.
like SQLs, Oracle database.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you tell me like for what you have used the MongoDB?
Mongo mostly which I use, like some of the cases like microservices is there, that is not related for this
Mm-hmm.
like transactions. Just we are entering the data for our
Mm-hmm.
business purpose. Once we will process the data, that data will have some particular time that will be auto destroyed or deleted from this database. So that cases mostly we used Mongo, like if I have a promo
Mm-hmm.
operation, that promo operations will have a promo code. So that promo code will have a in time and out time, like what will be the expiration time and what will be the generation time. So once the generated, how much value will be applicable while if any users is doing this applied for the particular promo code. So that is not related for this business like transactions which need to be followed, or maybe business operations which we have to capture the data into database and all. Just is the information which will have a
Mm-hmm.
non-variables, like we can say like independently time, so particular time. So that cases we are creating a collections. Based on the collections we are processing the data, so easily we can process through the Mongo database. So it's a NoSQL based, so JSON's data will be communicated and processed easily. If any business logic which will have a transactions management and all, in that cases we can go for either any relational database.
Got it. Okay. So I think Amarjit, I don't have any more questions for you. Uh, it's I just wanted to let you know like this is a preliminary screening round. So after this, you will have a coding round and at least one more round of technical interviews.
Okay.
So it was very nice talking to you. You have very clear concepts. Question about that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So, you have any questions for me?
Yeah. For which client you are deploying and what are the role and. technology you will use?
So we are not having any specific client requirement. It's essentially we are a startup, so we will do projects in multiple technologies. So, for example, we are having Java projects, .NET, Go, Scala, all the languages. And depending on the client's requirements, we'll have to basically pick up that particular technology. Also, we do a lot of work on data engineering side of things using like Databricks or Spark, and that type of projects are also there. Bulk of our work is on MongoDB. So as a company, we are partly owned by MongoDB itself.
Okay.
So we are a MongoDB company.
Okay, sure. Thank you for this clarifications and all.
Anything else I can answer from it?
No, thank you.
Thank you. It was
Yeah,
nice talking to you.
sure. Same here. Thank you for that. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.